It's Thursday, December 7th. I'm your host, Sarah Beal. On today's show, we talk to Town Manager Mark Ells. He fills us in on budget plans for 2018. Then we'll get a legislative update from State Rep Tim Whalen. And finally, we'll talk to Town Council President Eric Steinhilber about tonight's Town Council meeting. But first, let's get a look at today's top headlines. A new vendor has taken over the Barnstable Municipal Airport Cafe. Cape Cod Coffee of Mashpee is now in the cafe located in the airport terminal. They will offer visitors and travelers pastries, bagels, muffins, grab-and-go salads, grab-and-go sandwiches, as well as their signature coffee. Free parking will be available to the public in designated spaces near the cafe. The cafe hours will be 5:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. The 25th session of Inside Barnstable Town Government, a Citizens Leadership Academy, will begin Tuesday, January 30th. The Academy is an 11-week commitment with the goal of educating the citizens of Barnstable about the operations of town government while also obtaining valuable feedback from those citizens participating in the Academy. To date, over 700 Barnstable residents and employees have taken part in the program. The classes will be on Tuesday evenings from 6:30 to 9 p.m. and will be held in various locations throughout the town. The program is free of charge and open to anyone who resides or works in the town of Barnstable. Class size is limited, so please register early to avoid the waiting list. Applications are available at the Town Manager's office or online at townofbarnstable.us. The Town of Barnstable Public Health Division will hold a flu clinic at the Hyannis Youth and Community Center today, December 7th from 2 to 4 p.m. The clinic is open to town residents only and the fee is just $3. For more information, you can call the Health Division at 508-862-4644. Up next, we chat with Town Manager Mark Ells. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to talk a couple of different things. The budget, is an ongoing thing. It's not something that, you start one day and finish in 6 months, but we're definitely deep into the budget process for next year. What can you tell me about where we are right now and how things are going?
It's progressing as per our schedule, and if you wonder what the schedule is, you can go online and look.
Right on the website.
Right there, it tells you what it is. Some of it's dictated by our charters, some of it is just practical that to get to the next step in the budgetary process, you need to have done things. Mm-hmm. One of the things that actually is going to occur today is that I'll approve the calendar year rates as proposed. We had a hearing a month ago.
Yep.
I gave 30-day period of comment. There was public comment at the hearing, and now I'll take those taken them under review. I have received no additional comment. There was no opposition at the time of the hearings. We did get one letter from one individual relevant to the golf fees, and so I'll proceed with approval as proposed today. Mm-hmm. And what that does for us, that's just one little piece, but part of our budgeting process is to look at both expenses and revenues. So we begin looking at, okay, where do our revenues? Well, the majority of the money that we have comes from tax dollars. But then there are fees, and then there are other categories, some state funding in some cases. And so we need to look to securing those revenue streams to offset those expenses as we try to complete a fiscal year and as we move into the next fiscal year. So we'll have another set of rate hearings coming up in a couple of months for the fiscal year, because these are calendar year beginning January 1, then we have a fiscal year, and those will begin July 1. So we'll have another set of hearings. I like to, when the manager's office holds a hearing, I like to give 30 days for additional public comment, because not everybody can make it to give public comment to and I also announce it frequently as we approach the hearing, and then once the hearing is complete at Town Council, so that people are aware. Because it's always troubling when somebody truly calls and says, I just didn't see that, and I would have liked to have commented. Mm-hmm. So this happens annually, though. So if you don't like what happened this year, it's going to happen again next year, twice, like I've said, calendar and fiscal. So you'll have that chance. Mm-hmm.
I noticed that this year's calendar year hearing, usually it's a lot of, most of the fee hearings revolve around enterprise accounts. So there was a few things in consumer affairs that were brought up. So it's, you look at the whole picture. It's the whole, everybody who has a fee, you look at those.
We do, and it's only the ones that are being proposed for change.
Right.
So there was some in community service under our Marine division and under our golf course, and then there were some in regulatory service. So there was just that, and it's not every fee every year has
Right.
to come before to be reapproved.
Right, it's just
If
ones that are
it's
being
not
suggested.
modified, then it stands as previously approved.
And it's not always an increase. Sometimes it's a decrease.
We saw that this year
Yep,
in
exactly.
the golf course. I mean, everybody should key in that they dropped they cut the youth fee in half for golf.
Yep.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, we're trying to encourage the success that we've seen at the Youth and Community Center through our recreation program led by Lynn's the director, but Patty Machado, is kind of hands-on running the effort. Has been tremendous. And so that's where we're bringing kids, 6th, 7th graders over to the Youth and Community Center after school and keeping them busy in programs, all sorts of programs. They're trying to, they being the golf division, trying to encourage more youth to participate, and they just said, a good way to do that is to make sure we don't create financial barriers for them.
Yeah.
I hope to even expand it further and start similar programs where we're taking the kids right from the school, in coordination with the school and the parents, but to the Youth and Community Center, to our golf courses, to our other facilities. I'd love to start a swimming program year-round for our youth. I had a discussion with a teacher yesterday, and I completely agree that it's not like we live somewhere else. You are going to be in the water on Cape Cod.
It's important.
And you need to know how to swim. Every kid needs to know how to swim.
Yep.
And we have great summer programs, but not everybody can do it during the summer. So, hopefully, but the point is to keep the kids busy with positive opportunities. And that long term will truly pay off. So within our budget, that's one area for 19 that we're hoping to add more programmatic staff. Whether it be a reallocation of some existing resource or whether, depending on how much we have, we're right at that point where we're looking at, what additional might we be able to do? But we need a couple more program staff in those programs because they are growing. And, it's a long-term investment in our youth, but certainly that's well worth it. We're looking at restructuring within our community services division, specifically with natural resources within that division. We're looking more at regulatory services. We were very successful in shifting building department into its own department. Last fiscal year, they've been able to make some real improvements with, and it's really because they get to work directly with the director now, the building commissioner works, and he's part of my senior management team.
Right.
And so we're able to sit down and evaluate what our objectives are in a given period of time. Are we moving toward them? What resources do we need to accomplish them? What are we hearing from our public that's using those services? And how's it going? What do we need to do? It becomes, in a sense, a priority because it's right in front of us every day. As it gets put further down into the organization, that's still the case, but each director has a whole list of things they're supposed to accomplish. So we shifted it over. We're looking for its alignment with health. Building and health typically go together. They have permitting processes that are directly linked. It's an important communication. Very typically the same customer coming in. We want consistency. We want efficiency. E-permitting. We've implemented e-permitting for building, and we're in the process. We're well into the process in health at this point. So that's being looked at. Some of the examples of what was accomplished is our building commissioner evaluated the number of building permits categories and went from 20 categories, which kind of evolved over time, to 2. Simplified the process dramatically. He also looked at the site plan review process, which at times for applicants was cumbersome and took multiple meetings. Except for the more complicated projects, they're trying to accomplish that review in one meeting. Right. So time is money and resources for those who come in and apply. We know that, and we want to make this as straightforward and as effective as possible, and we've seen that happening, so we like what we see occurring. So those are the sorts of alignments that we see. There's also a focus on asset management in this budget. and we're going to be looking at where and how can we best manage the assets of our community. And we can't have it all pieced out into different areas. It doesn't mean that the whole organization isn't a part of it.
Right.
It just means that I need to be able to go to one person with authority and the appropriate resources to make sure that we're achieving those objectives that I spoke about. It can't be, well, we've got some here and some here and some here.
Right.
And we've been talking about this for a long time, but we're really, but, also the assistance of the town council subcommittee. Certainly the leadership has identified this as a priority. They created a subcommittee and they've been actively working on this. A lot more to do, but well worth the efforts. And now we're down at the boots on the ground making this happen. So that's another area you'll see. So we're excited about this year's operating budget. And the other great thing about working with our leadership, with our town council, is that we don't necessarily, and also the form of government that we have, we can make modifications as we go. I mean, why wait 6 or 12 months for something that we're saying, no, this is the way to do it? We have that opportunity, and if we have to go back in to ask, sometimes you don't have to ask for authorizations, you just communicate about it. Sometimes you have to, but town council allows us to do that, once they review it and understand it, twice a month.
Yeah.
So it does allow flexibility to make those improvements. And so we're excited about going into this fiscal year. We'll have a strong capital program. We're going to make some more modifications that will add value to our ability to deliver services and programs to our customers. And we feel good about that.
That's great. It's wonderful. It sounds like we're heading in the right direction, and the town is an ever-changing thing, and we're keeping up with all those changes.
Yeah, I think personally, I live here and raise my family here, and I work here. So I think we've been in the right direction, and now it's we're really poised to position ourselves in a position that we're delivering services and programs that other communities aren't able to.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I truly believe that. And it's attributable to leadership, and it's attributable to the quality staff that they have here in the town.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So another thing we want to talk about real quick before I let you go is that the chief did announce that he's going to be retiring in May. So that's going to be a process coming soon of the whole finding someone to fill his shoes, because those are mighty big shoes to fill.
They are. Yes, he did a couple months ago. He let us know that May first part of May would be his formal retirement. And he's been, as the chief always is, very, very quiet about that, and very much business. He's down to business. So, but from our standpoint, what that requires is really a two-step process. The first step is an evaluation of candidates for this, and it's my intent to evaluate internal candidates. We work with civil service on this. They'll come back with a list of the candidates who apply, them in a prioritized order, and then we create a screening committee and go through a second level of review. And there is kind of rigorous and rigid evaluation process and criteria that we follow when we do that. So I've been getting calls from the public saying, well, if you have a screening process or an interview group, I would like to participate. So we'll keep you advised. I think in about 2 months, we'll know where we are in the first part, and expect probably by February to be into the latter part. I'll probably talk with our town council about, I would like to solicit input from our community about what they want in their next police chief. This is as important of a hire as probably I will have as a town manager to be successful in, and so I can't do that without our public's participation and input. So I'd very much, I'm thinking about what the best way to collect that information is. And then obviously that decision will ultimately come to the manager. It's a contracted position. It will require town council ratification.
Well, I can't wait to hear about how the process moves forward, and maybe in February we'll touch again on having input from the public.
Yeah, and it's also my intent, if for some reason our timing isn't exactly perfect, we have a succession plan at the police department in the event that the chief or any member was no longer able to serve in that capacity. So my intent will be to follow that plan in the event that our timing of the departure of the chief doesn't work out. So that's people have asked that. What are you going to do? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Yep.
That's what's in place. There's no reason not to follow that.
Yep.
So.
And that's why you have that.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much, Mark, for coming in and giving us an update on the budget and the chief retirement. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. My guest today is Mark Ells. He's our town manager here in the town of Barnstable. Coming up, we'll talk to Town Council President Eric Steinhilber, but first, let's get a legislative update from State Rep Tim Whalen. Tim, thank you so much for joining us today. You're up on Beacon Hill today, and you're in a special hearing or meeting about the consensus revenue. What can you tell us about this?
Sure, Sarah. Thank you for the opportunity again to speak with you and to speak with the people who listen to Barnstable today. And the meeting that I'm at today it's a consensus revenue hearing. Every year, both the House and Senate committees on Ways and Means get together with people such as the Commissioner of Revenue, the Secretary of Admin and Finance, Beacon Hill Institute, and other organizations. And what we're doing is we're basically trying to nail down what the budget is going to look like for state government in fiscal year 19, which we'll be dealing with over the next several months. In January, the governor will release his proposal, his budget proposal. The House will take that up in April, and then the Senate will take it up in May. So we're sitting down right now, and I just stepped out. I'm standing on Beacon Street on the side of the State House right now. I just stepped out for a few minutes to speak with you, and we're listening to the Commissioner of Revenue, and he's going over some pretty interesting facts and figures about their budget projections for next year.
Wonderful. What can you tell me about what he's been talking about today?
Sure. What we're looking at is the tax collection went up 3.5% from 2017 into the current year of 2018, with current tax collections for fiscal year 18 was at $26.504 billion. Right now, the revenue projections that they have going into next year are anywhere between 4.1% to a 4.9% increase over the current year that we're in. We're looking at a window of $27.37 billion up to $27.58 billion. But I'll tell you, Sarah, there's an awful lot of uncertainty that we have going forward. We're not really certain what impact on revenues, tax collections, the question 4 ballot question related to recreational cannabis will have. And also we have a series of ballot questions that are going to be dealing with tax issues. One of the proposed ballot questions would be to raise the tax on people whose incomes are over $1 million a year by 80% from 5.1% up to 9.1%. And then another proposed ballot question that we're looking at would roll back the sales tax in the state from 6.25% to 5%. So as we're looking at these, it's like trying to catch a shooting star, shall we say, because there are an awful lot of things at play. But I will tell you, I'm just very grateful to be a part of the conversation, being assigned to the Joint Committee on Ways and Means, and I'm collecting up an awful lot of information that I'll be able to share with my colleagues from the Cape and Islands delegation so that we can have an idea of what the picture looks like and how it's going to affect people on the Cape and the islands.
Sounds like this hearing is a great way to keep you informed and help you to understand all of the intricacies that come along with the budget, and like you said, it's a whole bunch of different parts to it. So it sounds like this is a great way to stay informed and know what exactly it is that's going on.
Proper planning prevents poor performance, as I learned many years ago in the Marine Corps, and that's exactly what we're trying to do here. So I'll continue to keep you. I'll continue to keep the folks in the town of Barnstable and throughout the Cape, as well as my colleagues, up to date on as much information as possible as it becomes available to the Committee on Ways and Means. And like I said, it's not the most exciting topic in the world, but certainly budgeting is probably one of the most important things that we do in state government because it affects so many lives.
It is very important in a budget. I spoke with Town Manager Mark Ells earlier today. A budget is an ongoing process. It doesn't, it never ends. It just continues. So, is there anything else you'd like to let our viewers know before I let you go?
Not right now because the meeting, the hearing just started an hour ago. But I'm going to be collecting data. This is going to be we're going to be in here for several hours, and it's going to be great. Taking an awful lot of notes, and maybe I'll have some more information available when we speak next.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it, and good luck with the rest of the hearing today.
Thank you, Sarah. You're the best. Take care.
You too. Bye. My guest today is State Rep Tim Whalen. He's the state rep for the 1st Barnstable District. Eric, thank you so much for joining us today. Town Council meets tonight at 7 in the Town Hall hearing room. Not a huge agenda. You do have one presentation under communications. You're going to get a snow and ice overview from DPW Director Dan Santos. What can you tell me about this?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, tonight I thought with the new councilors coming on board, their first meeting, usually before the winter we do touch base to DPW just about their kind of storm and snow preparedness, but I thought it was important to kind of wait until this new council was seated so that the new councilors could hear how the DPW approaches plowing and winter storms and what the expectations are for various roads so that when calls come in during hopefully we have no snow, but we have to anticipate that we'll get some. I'm sure that there will be calls made to the new councilors and all the councilors. And it's just important, I think, for us to understand how the DPW is prepared, maybe some new techniques they'll be employing, and also the opportunity for the public to hear how the DPW responds to storms and kind of sets the expectations for recovery of the roads depending on the severity of the storm.
Yeah. It's an important issue, and I know when we do get snow, whether we do get it or not, it's always, people are always concerned and they want to know how it all works, and so this is a great idea, and I love the idea of waiting until the new counselors are on board so that they can have all the knowledge that they need, because they will get calls on a snow event from their constituents.
They certainly will.
Yep. So getting into the orders of the day, under old business, it's the allocation of the tax levy for 2018. I know that you guys have been talking about this. You had a presentation from Mark Milne and the new town assessor. So tonight is going to be the vote on what you guys decide to do with that. What can you tell us about this?
Correct. We do this each year, and we had our town finance director, Mark Milne, give a presentation at the last meeting to kind of go a little bit more in depth on this for the council. Many of the new councilors are actually in the audience, so they got to see the presentation, and myself and Mark Milne and others have made themselves available to the new councilors over these last couple of weeks in case they had any questions about it, so that they're fully prepared to vote tonight. So we'll have a extremely brief kind of summary of the issue because we did have the presentation a couple of weeks back, and then we'll have the vote. But basically, this is the split tax rate. We're allowed to set different tax rates per thousand of evaluations between residential can have one tax rate, commercial can have another. We haven't done that in many years, if at all. To be honest, we've always kept it the same amount, per 1,000 valuation. That's called tax factor of 1. So that will be vote we'll take tonight.
Wonderful. So people should really, look out for that, because that will, depending on what it's decided, that will affect their taxes next year. Another thing, it's just an order for a contract changes for the golf. They're going to change their golf cart vendor from a 3-year to a 5-year contract. So that's kind of simple.
Yep, that basically works out so they can do a longer contract. So when they go out for bids, they're able to get basically cheaper per annual cost because you're lengthening the contract. So I believe it's a savings of a little over $20,000 actually over the length of the contract for taxpayers. So that makes sense, I think, to lengthen the contract. We've done that with school bus contracts as well. We lengthened that. I believe that was a year or so ago, just to give more flexibility in the bargaining.
Yeah, you get a more competitive rate the longer the contract can be. So that's a wonderful idea. And then under new business, you're going to talk about the intermunicipal agreement between Barnstable, Sandwich, and Mashpee for the Pompanesett Bay watershed. I know I talked to Town Manager Mark Ells about this last week. What can you tell me about this?
Yep, that's under new business. I want to just jump back. There's one more old business
item.
I'm
Sorry.
It's the residential exemption for taxes. That's a separate vote.
Oh, yep.
After the tax factor. And that's for primary residential homeowners. We've had that in place for a number of years. Again, we vote on it annually, but it exempts 20% of your value up. There is a cap on it, but I believe it's $998,000 worth of value, which is obviously not a high percentage of homes in the town. But this really affects quite a few people in town, and the amount of property taxes they'll pay. So that's something we'll vote on tonight as well. As far as the intermunicipal agreement between Mashpee and Sandwich, this is the beginning. This comes out of the 208 planning for wastewater and water quality management, and this is a plan we've been working through for a couple of years now. And this sets the structure for how we would design a permit around the watershed, which Barnstable, Mashpee, and Sandwich all share, the Pompanesett watershed. Town of Barnstable has 6 watersheds total, and 4 of them are shared with other towns, obviously on either side of us. So this has been in the works for a while. So this is setting the framework for how these towns will work together to design a permit for the entire watershed, which touches the 3 towns. And this is kind of the first step in that process.
Mm-hmm. It's great to see all the towns working together towards this goal of protecting that watershed. Is there anything else you want to chat about before I let you go today?
That's it. It's a light agenda. We're looking forward to the new councilors joining us tonight. We'll also have election of nomination for president and vice president tonight for the next year. And, we're definitely looking forward to working with the new council and moving things forward.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today, Eric. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Have a good day. Bye. My guest today is Town Council President Eric Steinhilber. Town Council does meet tonight at 7 o'clock in the Town Hall hearing room. Now let's take a look at this week's community calendar. The Osterville Village Christmas Stroll is happening this Friday, December 8th. The day-long event begins at 10 a.m. and will continue throughout the day and into the evening, ending around 9 p.m. Events include live music, a visit from Santa, Mrs. Claus and one of Santa's elves, cornhole, tree lighting at the library, and lots of good food and refreshments. For more information, you can visit ostervillevillage.com. Town Council meets tonight at 7 in the Town Hall hearing room. That meeting will also air live right here on Channel 18. Thanks for joining us today. We'll be back tomorrow with an all-new show. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Beal.